Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If you'll give me a little bit of leeway, something was raised to the Commission that I just want to put something on the record to make it clear. The integrity of this Commission was questioned tonight, and it was questioned by a couple people. But I just want to point out that testimony was brought forward by the New Jersey Family Policy Council, and they've made a number of comments in the press about how this commission is stacked and that the net effect of the law was simply to create a vehicle by which, and I'm quoting, the homosexual activists could run a dog and pony show, essentially to force the legislature's hand to create same-sex marriage rather than civil unions. And I know that I think it's great in our democratic process when people have something to say, and a number of those people are on this commission. I know that the Attorney General's representative, Mr. De Almeida, we don't necessarily see eye to eye on everything, but I think that you have a clear purpose here. But I also think that you're well-reasoned and sound to render a judgment based on the facts that have come before you in the testimony and the Attorney General. And I know that the Department of Health and Human Services was actually a named defendant in the matter. But I do think that the commissioners may have various viewpoints, but that they will bring forward and they will hear the testimony and render a decision based on the objective testimony brought forward. I also wanted to note that this was the first time that organization and its entourage, about 10 people, appeared. And that's unfortunate because I know at the prior hearings a number of people came forward that they weren't able to hear, and so they came in here, dropped their testimony, and walked out the door about 5 minutes after they spoke. And I would like that recorded on the record. What they missed was to hear from, and I just want to highlight a couple of points of testimony that came forward. The representative from the National Black Justice Coalition, Sylvia Rue, as well as Anahi Galante of the Latino Caucus, who spoke of the extraordinary impact of this law on communities of color. And I think that's very important because oftentimes we find layered within the discrimination of the Black and Latino experience is now this added layer of discrimination that gay, Black, and Latino people experience. And oftentimes you have layers of poverty, which is another form of discrimination, and people don't have the resources to hire an attorney to go through the expensive motion practice, to go through the name change process, to deal with banks and credit unions and all these problems across the board. And these are the organizations, the entities, whether they do it on purpose or not, that perpetuate discrimination because our legislature and our government, by enacting a separate and unequal statutory law, they said it's okay in our society to discriminate against these people, and these society's institutions, society's citizens follow suit. Sometimes it's with an invidious discriminatory purpose. Sometimes it's just simply because they just don't know. In fact, most of the time, I think. So that's where this law is causing a problem. You also heard Leslie Farber just spoke, but I want to highlight at the last time that she spoke of her client who, for whom she had to invoke her attorney-client privilege to come forward and testify because her client is a member of the military service, and by enacting the civil unions law, the state legislature, unintentionally I think, has created a separate list of the gays in our state, the lesbians in our state. And so this relationship is only confined to gay and lesbian. And so therefore there's a list out there. So to identify your partner puts you in jeopardy when you're in the military, puts you in jeopardy of don't ask, don't tell. So again, yet another example of how this law perpetuates discrimination. And when the government says that that's okay, this only increases the problem because we see now the federal government now discriminates and it just says it's okay across the board. I also want to point out that Jody Weiner testified that her employer would not give her benefits until they found out she was married. And that's significant because her employer was declining to give benefits as a civil union, but as soon as she said, I'm married in Massachusetts, then the employer said it was okay. And that's a significant, important thing I would like to highlight to you at this point. Dozens of committed couples and their families have come forward to share their personal stories. And the fact that these hearings had to be held has breached the dignity of their families, has made them come forward with some very personal information that otherwise would not be required from heterosexual couples. And so I think it's sad that this failed experiment, as the bar president said, that this sad experiment in discrimination that we call civil unions is on the books. And so I would ask this commission, and along with all the people that you've heard from, from. We're all here asking that you go to the legislature and that you tell them that we want marriage equality. Thank you.